What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's session on designing effective courses with purpose. I'm Zakia Ringgold, and I'm so excited to have you here on this LinkedIn Live series. So, if you were here last week, you know we were talking about how to validate your course, especially if you are someone that wants to build them. Let me make sure that we have landed. It looks like we have, so I will keep on going. So, if you are building your very first course or looking to refine what you have already started, this workshop series is designed to give you the tools, the strategies, and the confidence to build courses that truly connect with your audience and deliver results. Now, a lot of you may be asking, why in the world would I build a course? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know if you know, but the course industry, the online course industry, is a multi-billion with a B billion-dollar industry. And so I know a lot of people that are around me, a lot of small businesses that I coach, and they have all of this knowledge up here. But if you can just package that in a way that's effective and impactful, you will be very successful. Now, before we do get started, I do want to give a really quick shout out to those of you that joined us last week for our first session where we talked about how do you validate your course idea. We talked about how you research your audience, how you test your concept, and you make sure that your course aligns with what people actual what people need. So today is the perfect follow-up because we're moving from just that validation of your course to bringing and designing your actual course. So bringing it to life. Now, I know that course creation can feel very overwhelming, especially when you're thinking about how do you structure your content? How do you cater it to different learners and keep everything aligned so that you actually deliver training? So that's exactly what we're going to unravel today. Notice I said unravel. If you are not already subscribed to the Business Tech Unraveled podcast, I hope that you will do that as well. It's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon Music, all those places. So make sure you subscribe because we unravel all of the tech on there. By the end of tonight's session, though, you will have a roadmap for designing a course that's not only engaging, but transformational for your learners. The worst thing that you can do when you are getting started is build something where people walk away like, what did I just spend my time doing? You want to create more of a wow factor that delivers results. And because this is a live session, I'd love for you to participate as much as possible. I'll be asking some questions throughout. So feel free to jump into the chat, share your thoughts, or even take notes for us. So if I say something that really resonates and you want to make sure people don't miss it, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Okay, never mind. But the more you engage, the more you are going to get out of today's session. And that goes for any training. All right, let me switch us over. Hello, Marcia. Good to see you, my dear. We are going to get started. I will try to make sure that I come back to your questions as they come up, but I do want to try and get through because I have packed a lot into this presentation. So I want to make sure that you all get the most out of it. And I'll be sure to stop whenever I see there's a bubbling of questions or if there's a natural place. But if you are ready, let's jump into the actual agenda of what we will be covering. So, here's our agenda for today. I like to think of this as your roadmap to course design success. Each part of today's session builds on the last part that we talk about. So, by the end, you'll have a really solid foundation for creating a course that not only teaches, but truly transforms for your learners. Here's the thing, your course is so much more than just a collection of lessons. It's really an experience that you are creating for those people that enroll in your classes. So, whether you're teaching them how to grow a business, build a skill like soap making or candle making or photography or even changing their mindset. The way you structure your course will make all the difference. Today, that's what we're really trying to cover. How do you do that step by step? So, the first thing to know is how adults learn and what keeps them engaged. I can't tell you how many times people would ask me, well, how do I get them engaged? How do I get them to do more in the class? So we'll start by understanding the basics of how adults learn, because if your course does not resonate with them, they're not going to stick around. And this is the foundation of engaging course design. Then, what we're going to look at are learning styles. If you've been on my LinkedIn post, I've been asking a couple of questions about how do you learn best. There's a reason for that. We're going to talk about learning styles and how to cater to different preferences, because not everyone learns the same way. And that's actually a really good thing. Next up, we're going to look at the domains of learning. And just so you know, there are three. There's the cognitive, that's the thinking part. There's the psychomotor, which is doing, and then there's the affective, which is feeling. So, understanding these different domains will help you to design your course so that addresses both the head, the hands, as well as the heart. Like, what's the emotional connection that we want for our learners as they are going through the course? After that, we're going to dig into Bloom's taxonomy, which is like the ultimate cheat code for taking your learners from basic understanding of a topic all the way to mastery. And then last, we're going to look at why your objective matters. Last week, we talked about why validation of your course matters. This week, we are focusing on your course objectives. Your objectives are really the GPS for your course. We're going to break down the different types of objectives and how we create them. You'll notice that we're not talking about tech tools today, and that is very intentional. I think sometimes we hand over all of our knowledge and all of our expertise to the tools where we haven't done the foundation and the grunt work. This session is all about tapping into your expertise and building a really solid foundation for your course. Now, once you've got that covered, the structure and the strategy all nailed down, that's when we will let tech do the hefty lifting. And that's when we'll also be coming back to that next week when we actually build your course online and put it out there to sell it. But remember, the magic always, always starts with you. So by the time we're done, you'll be able to outline your modules, map out your lessons, and feel confident in your ability to create a course that's really resonating for your audience. And what I mean by resonating is it's delivering the results that they signed up for. So if you've ever doubted whether you can do this, let me tell you right now, right here, you absolutely can. And I'm here to show you how to do it. Okay. So just stick around. And I do want to remind you that I did create a course resource hub. This gives you everything you need to simplify the process of building your course. Now, the reason I created this is I want you to see a real life example of the principles that I'm sharing. You can absolutely do everything that you're seeing me doing. Here is where you're going to find podcast episodes. We're going to talk about learning styles tonight, right? So I know that some of you may be auditory learners. I do have the Business Tech Unraveled podcast, so you can listen to those episodes if watching me on a screen and presenting isn't necessarily your jam, right? I have downloadable workbooks. Some of you are my kinesthetic learners or the ones that like to read and write as you are going along. And then I also have links to any of the resources or tools that are shared during this series. You can also submit a question to me. So, right at the top of that page, if there's something that I say or you catch this on the replay, I can tell you last week we had over 700 replay viewers. 700. So that means you're not here live when we do this, but you are watching it on the replay. If you have a question, while you're watching that replay, head over to the course resource hub and you can submit your question to me and I'll include the answer to that or I'll try to address it in one of the upcoming series. So make sure you head over to links.businesstechlab.com/online course toolkit to access that hub. All right. So, creating a course does feel overwhelming, and that's completely normal. Maybe you are somebody who's not sure where to start, or you're wondering if your content is what your audience really wants. Now, if you are wondering that question, I'm going to remind you to go and look at our course validation one that we did last week, because there we answer the question of, is this what your audience actually wants? And so, with that, you don't have to worry about whether or not you're doing exactly what the audience wants. Or you might be somebody that's worried about the tech side of things. Here's the thing: every single course creator, I don't care if they've been doing it for 50 years, 20 years, or it's their first time at the rodeo, they have all faced the same questions. And the key to breaking the process is making it simple using actionable steps. And so, I would ask you all, what's your biggest challenge? But for those that watch on the replay, what is your biggest challenge when you are thinking about creating your course? For me, I can tell you in the beginning, it was how much is too much information to include in a course? And hopefully tonight you will see the answer to that. So, we're going to start with adult learners. When you align your course with how adults actually process information, you create something that's practical, relevant, and engaging. Adults learn best when they can see the value in what they're learning and when it connects to real world experience. So if your course feels disconnected or overwhelming, typically the people who are taking that course will disengage. So that's going back to that first question. How do I keep people engaged? Well, sometimes when you're a subject matter expert, you want to put everything that you know into a course. But when you align it with what the true needs are and you present it in a way that's practical, that's where, again, that magic that we're looking for actually happens. And so, when you're designing a course for adults in particular, it's important to remember that we learn very differently from how kids learn. And here are some of the four key principles to keep in mind and how you can apply them when you're designing your course. First things first is adults are highly goal driven and self directed. So they like to feel in control of their learning. So what that means is you don't want to put them into a course where they have to do this one first and that one next and this one. If you have several ones, one really nice thing is to allow them to choose their own adventure. You want to offer those options for self-paced content or allow them to choose what they want to focus on in your course. They also want to know, what are they going to achieve by the end of the course? So this is where your objectives are going to come in and making them crystal clear on showing them the progress all along the way. So you want to break down your course into clear milestones or modules so that they can track their progress. They also want to leverage any prior experience that they have. If you think about yourself, you bring a vast amount of experience either from your career, your business, your home life, your upbringing, and all of that. So when you are building courses, you want to try and tap into all of those experiences by including things like reflective questions or opportunities for learners to actually share their perspective on what it is that you're sharing. So, something you can do for that is when you're building out your course, you can ask your learners to reflect on something that happened to them in the past or challenges related to whatever your course topic is. Now, I've done that a few times in this series when I ask you all to think back to, what was a really great course that you took? Why did you like that course? What were you looking to get out of it? And the reason I'm asking you that is I'm trying to tap into your prior knowledge. Another thing for adults is relevance matters. Adults need to know why the content is important and how it applies to their life or their goals, depending on your course. So, you want to focus on really practical examples and outcomes that will really make sense for them when it comes to real world challenges. So, here's an example of that. If you were teaching somebody social media marketing, you don't start with the theory and how it got started and the history behind it. Show them how to create a post that generates engagement. That is going to be highly relevant dependent on why they enrolled in your course. And the last thing I want to talk about is immediate application. Adults want to put what they've learned into practice right away. This isn't something for like 5 years from now, you're going to need this information. So every module or lesson should include actionable takeaways or tasks that they can complete immediately. So if you were teaching a course on, like what I'm doing right now, you're teaching a course on course creation. So, one thing that I'm going to have you do for homework is to draft one objective or outline for your course based on what we go over tonight. And so that is really important to know when you are doing it. So, I want you to think about the last course that you took and maybe even this workshop. Why did you take it? Was it a goal? Was it relevant to something that you want to do? Do you have a plan for how you're going to use the information? All of that is adult learning principles in action. And understanding these will help you immensely in not only creating your course, but marketing it with what's in it for me as the learner. Why should I take that? Because then they can clearly see the value of what it is that you're offering. And then I also want you to think about the last time you learned something new. What made it stick? Was it a video? Was it hands on activity? Were you a part of an accountability group? Or even reading through a guide? Because the thing about that is, that's going to tell you your own learning style, but then it also lends to what's unique in terms of understanding the preferences of other people too. So the answers that you get from that are going to be so helpful because they will show you how different we all are. So if we had a lot of you in the chat saying, "Oh, well, I learned by listening. I learned by watching. I learned by writing it down. I learned by trying it." The great thing about that is you'll be able to keep that in mind so that you don't build you don't build a course with just your preference in mind, if that makes sense. I'm hoping it does. So I just mentioned learning styles. Now that we've talked about how you learn best, let's talk about learning styles. Learning styles refer to the different ways that people prefer to process and absorb information. There are a ton of frameworks and descriptions of this, but one popular model that we'll look at is called the VARK model. This identifies four main styles. You have your visual, your auditory, those that are read and write preference, and those that are kinesthetic. When I say visual learners, that means people who really prefer things like diagrams or charts or images. They need to see the information in order to understand it. Now, auditory learners prefer listening. So they'll connect with lectures, podcasts, and even discussion groups among their peers. Those that are in the read and write category, they process information best through written words. So sometimes they'll have their textbook and they will have their own notebook pulled out. So they love lists, notes, reading, all kinds of guides. And then the last one is kinesthetic. Kinesthetic learners love hands on activities and real world practice. And the reason for that is it helps those concepts that they're learning to stick a whole lot better. So, how do you actually cater to all of these styles? The answer is in flexibility. All successful courses incorporate a mix of formats. Now, it doesn't have to be all video, all audio, all you don't have to do that. But what you do need to do is make sure that you are nimble enough for when you are creating your content, you're not sure who's going to take it. So you want to make sure all of the styles are accounted for, but in a way that makes sense. So here's an example. If you're teaching a course, I'm going to go back to social media marketing. You might include a short video walkthrough, a downloadable checklist, and a hands-on task where the people that are taking the class, they create their first post. This would help you to ensure that every learner finds something that resonates with their style. So you might be saying, whoa, Zakia, how in the world do I fit all of that in a single course? Now, like I was saying a minute ago, the goal is not to match every style perfectly, but to really create a learning experience that feels accessible and is engaging for everyone who takes it. And of course, if you would have validated it, you would have learned a little bit about your learners and all of that. Now, for you, I want you to think about what you enjoyed most in your last training class when you were sitting in a class as a student. Not just what it delivered, but how it was presented to you. And did you find it effective, or was it just a terrible course? Because you don't want to recreate that. But if it was effective, why was it effective? And did you wish that it was actually presented in a whole different way? Knowing what was effective for you and why it was impactful can be very beneficial as you are thinking about how you will present your own course. Okay. Now, so far, we've talked about how people prefer to learn, their learning styles, but there's more to learning than just preferences. To create a well rounded course, you also need to think about the types of learning that you want to promote in your course. And this is where those three domains of learning come in. The domains of learning help you think about what your learners are gaining from taking your course beyond just the knowledge. So, the first domain that I have listed on here is cognitive or the thinking domain. This is about knowledge, understanding, and intellectual skills. So, if you're teaching facts, concepts, problem solving, you're really working in the cognitive domain. So, for example, a cognitive domain would be explaining marketing strategies. They're not actually applying it, but giving them a high level understanding of what it is. The next one is psychomotor, where the focus is on actually doing. This domain is all about physical skills or taking action. So, learning by doing. Our kinesthetic learners love this, but if your course includes demonstrations or hands on practice, that's when you are engaging the psychomotor domain. So, an example of this would be teaching people how to set up lighting for a live stream, or teaching people how to use the equipment on live streaming, or creating a product for the first time. This all falls under psychomotor because they're then doing something. And then the last domain is affective. It focuses on the emotion, the attitudes, and the values. A little bit earlier, I said when you're building your course, you want to impact the head, the hands, and the heart. And this affective domain is the one that impacts the heart. And so it's helping people to either shift their emotions, their attitudes, or their values. So it's really about, how do I connect this material that I'm trying to teach you on a more personal or emotional level? So if you're encouraging your people that are in your class to value customer engagement or building confidence in public speaking, it ties all to that affective domain. The best courses touch all three domains. You're not just teaching people what to know, which is the cognitive, or what to do, which is the psychomotor. You're also inspiring them to connect with the material in a much more emotional manner, which is effective. So if you address all three, you're creating a truly impactful learning experience for the people that are taking the class. Now, here are some examples of learning objectives across those domains. So, if we look at cognitive, understanding, again, head. So, understanding social media analytics for business decision making. That's 100% in the cognitive area. Psychomotor is create and schedule engaging social media posts across all the platforms, where the effective would be appreciating the importance of your authentic brand voice in social media. So you can see how just slightly changing what we're attempting to do or what we're attempting to impart is impacting different levels for learning. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about one powerful question. Why do we learn? Think about the times that you've chosen to learn something new. And was it to gain knowledge, build a skill, or maybe shift your perspective on something? AI is everywhere. I can't tell you how many AI conversations I have in a day. So I typically will spend about 2 to 3 hours a day on various AI tools. And it's a combination of all of them. Yes, I want to stay ahead of the curve in terms of what's happening. I want to build my skills for media production with it. But then there's also an emotional state for me too, where I don't want to be left behind. So there's an emotional piece like, you got to know this stuff. Now, turn that same reflection toward the course that you're building. What's the goal for the people that are taking your course? Is it designed to help them gain knowledge, like understanding a new concept? Or is it really to build a skill, something that's hands on that they can apply right away? Or maybe your focus is on changing their attitude, helping them to see the world in a different way, or shifting their mindset because they keep having the same kinds of blocks. I want you to take a moment and write that down wherever you are because you need to know, is your course about gaining knowledge, building skills, or changing attitudes? It can absolutely be a mix of all three, but you need to be clear on what that is because that's what's going to help you build out the content for your course. Your answers are going to define how you structure your course. And next, what we're going to look at is Bloom's taxonomy. And I will tell you all that I am sneakily, very not so sneakily, just introducing you to some basic instructional design principles. When I'm talking about adult learning theory, when I'm talking about Bloom's taxonomy, the different domains of learning, um, and what I'll be talking about the different types of objectives, all of those are things that I was taught in order to build courses because there is a science behind why people learn, how people learn, what they choose to learn, and all of that. So, no matter what your goal is, you got to understand these concepts if you want an effective course. If you just want to turn your camera on and record a video, put it out there, and put a price on there, I'm not saying that it won't sell, but if you're in it for really having a transformation for the people that are taking your courses. The main reason why Lynn, I'm going to come on here for a second because I feel like I've been yammering away at a presentation for too long. The main reason why I am even doing this is I have enrolled in so many bad courses. And I don't think it's intentional on the part of the people that are putting those courses out there. It's just a lack of understanding of how to do it correctly or how to do it more effectively. No two courses are ever going to be the same, but it's a matter of really understanding the principles so that you can be impactful in what it is that you're selling and more confident even if you're not selling it. Maybe you really want to see a transformation and you're doing this for free. So, what I want to talk about is one of the biggest reasons why people get stuck in a course. It's a lack of scaffolding. And that's like how you build on from one thing to the next to the next. So, when a course doesn't guide learners step by step they can quickly feel overwhelmed or lost. Sometimes you're putting too much information into a course. And this often happens when you, as the course creator, jump straight into advanced concepts without building a solid foundation first or checking, do they actually know that information before you get started? The key to solving this is breaking your course into smaller, manageable steps that build on each other. And one of the best tools for doing this is Bloom's taxonomy. So let me come over here and check. I see a couple of folks. Hi there, Marcia. Matt is here. Hey, Matt, how are you? I don't know. It will let me show. Oh no, it won't let me show your star on the screen. But thank you for joining live. Matt has an amazing Ready for Real Estate podcast, guys. Be sure to check that out as well. All right. So we don't want your learners to get stuck. We do not. So when you're structuring your course, Bloom's taxonomy can help you decide why you're presenting the information and how your learners are going to interact with it at each and every stage. So let's take a look at the levels and what they mean for your course. So the first level when you're building a course is that remembering. So this is the most basic level. And this is when you're helping people to recognize or recall key facts. So if you were teaching definitions or listing steps in a process, that is the most basic level and it's the top level for remembering. The next level up is understanding for comprehension. Here is where the people take your course and they're starting to make sense of what they've learned. So there's some foundation that's there, and they can explain concepts in their own words or they can interpret the information. The next level up is the application. That is the practical use. This is where learners take what they've learned and use it in a real world or a simulated situation, depending on the kind of training environment you're in. And that can be completing an activity or solving a problem. The next level up is analyze, where they're breaking down information. Now, at this level, they can dissect a concept, they can compare ideas, and make decisions. And then the evaluation one, they can really go a higher level. And then the last one is the creation. This is the highest level where the people who've taken the course can combine everything that they've learned to produce something that's original, like a project, a plan, a new idea, or like I like to say, a bar of soap if they've gone through live soap school. Now, think about your course. Why are you presenting the information that you've included? Are you teaching people so that they can remember a concept, apply it, or maybe even create something new? I want you to really know what that is because that makes it so much easier when you start building out your content. And let's take everything we've discussed, how adults learn, learning styles, the domains of learning, Bloom's taxonomy, and connect it to one of the most critical elements of your course, objectives. Objectives are going to be the backbone of your course design. They serve three essential roles. The first one is they define success. Objectives answer the question for the people that are considering your course: what does success look like for me? It helps you to clearly define what learners should know, do, or feel by the end of your course. Objectives also provide structure. They are going to guide you for your course for every module, every lesson, every activity, so that it's aligned with a purpose. What are people getting out of it by being enrolled in it? And for two things, this prevents overwhelm and keeps both you and your learners sane and on track, because the same way projects at work can have scope creep, your course can take on scope creep. But if you have a really solid foundation around this is what we're attempting to accomplish, that gives you a really, I don't want to say narrow, because depending on all of the information that you're sharing, it could get very wide. So keep that in mind. And then the last thing is it gives you a foundation for assessment. So, objectives give you a way to measure progress. They help you to design things like your quizzes, the activities that you give people, and it shows whether the learners are meeting their goals that you set. And I see Rick is here. Hi, Rich. Very, very interesting. That graphic was created by none other than AI. Good to have you, Rich. Um, I love AI. I love AI. So now that we understand the importance of objectives, let's talk about how to write them effectively so they serve as the GPS for your course. That's really what I refer to objective as. Um, so there are two types of objectives you will need for your course. One is a terminal objective. A terminal objective is really about the big picture, like the destination of where your learners should end up by the end of your course. This is the ultimate outcome that you are after and helping them to achieve. On the other hand, there are enabling objectives. So these are those stepping stones, the smaller ones, the actionable steps that are going to guide them ultimately to that terminal objective. So you can really use that to break the journey down into manageable pieces and ensure that each lesson builds on the last one that was done. Now, let's say your terminal objective is to help people create a fully functional online course. That's the end goal. By the way, that is the end goal for what we're doing. Your enabling objectives might include defining their course topic and the audience, outlining their modules, writing objectives, choosing a course platform, deciding on how much to pay it, how to market the course. All of those are smaller enabling objectives that are going to help them get to that end goal of creating a course. So it really helps to make sure that your modules are aligned, your lessons are aligned, and it creates a very logical flow for for all of your learners and for you, so you're not left wondering, they're not left wondering, why am I here? Right? We don't want anyone to ever say, why am I here? Or how does this help me reach the goal that we said we were going to get by taking this course? So instead, each step in those enabling objectives builds on the last, and it helps to move closer and closer and closer. Now, you've done the objectives, the styles, and all of that, but then how do you actually build the course? Like, what are those pieces? Um, your objectives, your course structure, and having an understanding of how adults learn, you want to now figure out, how am I going to deliver that content? And this is where the learning strategies come in. And they should align with the type of information that you're delivering and what you want the people to achieve. So we're going to go through 9. These are my top favorite ones for deciding on how am I going to present this information. And the first one is lecture based. And this is perfect for presenting foundational knowledge or introducing new concepts. So you can think video presentations or narrated slides. This that I'm doing right now would be very much considered a lecture base. Or if you're doing a pre recorded video that people just watch, that would also be lecture based. Interactive activities. And this is where you engage people with like polls or quizzes, or even have group discussions to encourage participation and application. Now, the reason this is important, and the reason I have you doing this before you start building your course, is you have to know, what are the strategies that I'm going to be using? How am I going to present the information? Because that's going to help you determine which platform you're going to put your content on. Do you need a community? Do you need a place where people can take polls and quizzes? Do you need somewhere that people can actually download resources, watch videos? Are you able to embed videos? All of those things come into play once you understand how you're going to deliver the content. So there's a reason why we do this before we jump to the tools. So the other one is interactive activities. Like we mentioned, that's your polls, quizzes, and discussions. Then we have hands on practice. And this is really good for teaching skills. And you're providing step by step or demonstrations. And then you have the learners actually try it themselves. There's also scenario based learning. This is where you help them to apply their knowledge in either real world situations, like I mentioned before. You could do role playing. So sometimes people are career coaches and they'll do mock interviews. This is a scenario like, how would you answer this behavioral question? Or problem solving skills, or things like that. That is great for scenario based. Then there is self paced learning. So let's say I record this entire thing and I just put it into a course and allow people to go through it at their own pace, at their own time. That would be the self paced part. Collaborative is when you encourage teamwork or, again, those group discussions, group projects, peer reviews. So let's say we all want to get better at live streaming. So we have a community within our classroom environment where people can upload their most recent live stream. And then when they do that, they can get feedback from not only the instructor, but the other people that are enrolled in that class. That's when you have something like collaborative learning. And gamification is another one. Adults are extremely competitive. And what we found is when you incorporate things like game elements for your courses, so that can be badges, leaderboards, points, challenges, it really does motivate some learners. Some people could care less, but there are some that absolutely hate it. There's also a flipped classroom model. And this is kind of unique. Not really, but most people don't do it. And this is where you give the learners the content before they get to the classroom, like a pre recorded lesson, a reading that they have to do. And then you actually use the live session for discussion and practice. All righty, I see Curtis there. Hello, Curtis. How are you? I'm almost done. I've been going, almost done. And the last one is blended learning. So that's where you combine your live sessions, your self paced modules, hands on practice, and you create a really comprehensive and flexible learning experience. So when you're deciding on a strategy, you always think about the objective for each lesson. If you're teaching foundational knowledge, a lecture might work. But if you want learners to practice a skill, hands on activities, or scenario based is going to be a much better discussion to help them, or a much better strategy to use because you're getting them to take action. The key with all of these is to match the strategy to the goal so that your learners stay engaged and can apply what they have learned. Bling evening, Miss Collins. How are you? We're almost done, guys. I swear. I know this is going long. This is going to be the most lecture based that I do for this series. Okay. Normally, I am more hands on and showing you a tool. So if you have stuck around this long, you are amazing. And we are almost there. Almost. All right. So on this next one, I'm just pulling it all together. There are truly 8 steps to designing an impactful course, and we haven't done anything within our system in terms of building it. We are laying the foundation so we can work much faster. We can put the AI tools to a much better use without starting at a blank page and not having to end up suffering with what I call the imposter syndrome because you've handed it all over to AI and you're not comfortable with what it's created. And then it's like, well, I guess it's good enough. If you have this really solid foundation, you will be in a really good place. So now it's time to bring it all together in a clear step by step process so that you can design impactful courses. And I'm talking about courses that actually get results for the people that take them. And here are the 8 key steps that will set you and your course up for success, not just for you, but for your learners as well. The very first thing is to validate your course idea. Make sure that your course aligns with your audience's needs and solves a real problem that they have. We did cover this in last week's workshop. So if you missed it, go back and check that one out. Make sure you're writing really clear objectives. And I know a lot of people get nervous when you say, "What are you talking about an objective? That's like a SMART goal. Nobody has time for all that." But I'm telling you, when you do that, it defines what success looks like for your learners with both the terminal objective, meaning overall, when I go through this course, how am I going to be able, or what am I going to be able to do, think differently, or know because of the course? And then you use those enabling objectives to get to that overall goal. Then you want to align your modules. You want to break that course into major milestones that help lead to your terminal objective. Then you want to structure your lessons. And I see we have Laverne here, guys. Hey, Laverne, how you doing? Sorry, I'm looking right here for the camera, but all of your comments are over there. I'm almost done. All right. So you want to structure your lessons, and that means you are organizing it around those objectives and keeping each one focused and actionable. Then you choose the training strategy. This is picking the right strategy for each lesson, whether it's lecture based, hands on practice, or gamification. And then the next one is making sure you consider learning styles. Incorporate a mix of formats. Just because you love video doesn't mean that your learners love video. Some people need to hear it. Some people need to read it. Some people need to write it. They need worksheets and activities. So don't just build a course based on your own preference. Consider those that may be enrolling in your class. Then you want to make sure you provide resources. So you can offer guides, templates, tools, anything to help people take action on what it is that you're sharing and apply it. And then you always want to check progress. You want to build in opportunities for the people that are in your class to reflect, to practice, report back, tell you, "Hey, that didn't work. I hate it, not doing it," whatever. But you want that opportunity. And I know it can feel like a lot, but if you were thinking about just turning your camera on, recording a few videos, and putting them out there, I want you to ask yourself, will that really deliver the results that you're promising to your learners? Taking a methodical approach could seem overwhelming at first, but I promise you, if you do these things, you will go so much faster. Okay, let's see what Miss Laverne is saying. Hey lady, I miss you too. I saw you at the business resource fair this evening. I know it was virtual. Do I come on every Wednesday? Typically, this is a special series. I was testing something out on LinkedIn. So I have like this poll going, and now I'm running a series on how to build online courses. I typically live stream on Sundays and Saturdays, but my schedule is changing. So what I'm saying to you, Miss Laverne, is I'm not sure what my schedule will be, but I can tell you next Wednesday and the following Wednesday will be live because this is a 4-part series. And then after that, I'll check back in because I'm looking at the data. So before we wrap up, I'm going to talk about what it is that we said we wanted to accomplish, right? And what we really wanted to do was make sure that if you've never built a course before, but you know that you have knowledge, you have expertise, you have talent that you want to package up and sell, I want you to understand how adults learn. And when you know that, you'll know what keeps them engaged and what's going to make them tune out in your course. We also wanted to make sure you understood about learning styles. So there is no one size fits all. And sometimes you may not be singular. You might want to watch a video. You might want to read a book too. And you might want to listen to the podcast. but you do have a preference, and that same preference could be different amongst all of your learners. We also looked at the domains of learning: explore, thinking, doing, and feeling. These are the three pillars of learning. And then how to take your learners from basic knowledge to mastery by understanding Bloom's taxonomy. And then the objectives, defining what learners will achieve to set the foundation for success. They were our primary objectives. So, what I want to make mention of before I come and see what your comments are is I do invite you to access the resource hub. I created it for this series. It's at links.businesstechlab.com/online course toolkit. Here you can get free downloads, templates, podcast episodes that support you in building your online course. So make sure you go and check that out. If you have any questions for me at all, I'm going to share this tab so you can see it. Did that one come over, guys? Yeah. So this is the online course resource hub. At the very top, you can click this button if you want to submit a question. Like Zakia, you just talked all that about objectives, but I still don't know how to outline my course. Submit your questions to me. If you have feedback about this series on what you want me to cover, you can submit that via audio or even a video, or even send me a testimonial, right? There is the course validation blueprint in there. You can book a one-on-one consult with me. Last week, we did go into a few tools. Anytime I mention tools on these series, I will have links for them. And then I always do a podcast episode for these. So the latest podcast episode is out for Business Tech Unraveled on what a successful online course have. And then the other ones are from last week. So all of that is here. And I will have new worksheets up there by this Friday for what we covered tonight. And you can always put your name and email in here if you want me to email it to you once it becomes available. So let me come and check on all of you folks that are saying, hey, Zakia. All right. What are you saying? Hey, Laura. How are you doing? I know you're in California. Hold on. Are you all okay? Yes, it was recorded though, Dawn. So, oh yeah, I thought it was tomorrow. It was recorded. It was recorded. So, yes, it was amazing. There were 5 resources there tonight. So much information. All right. So, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. How'd I do on time? 53 minutes. I don't know how I'm going to be able to break this up into several things, but I will try. I will absolutely try. So, thank you so very much for joining me. Don't forget that you can access the free, free online course resource hub. This is where you can access the downloads, the templates, the podcast episodes, all to support you while you are building your course. So we'll try and do more of these once I come up with the next topic. It will either be on social media or live streaming. I know my soap making fam is like, where you been, where it's at, and all of that. That will be on Saturday. But yeah, that's what we got going on. You live far away from the fire. Good, good. I'm glad to hear it. I knew you were in LA, but I know the wind. We had a fire one. I'm not, there's no comparison to what's happening in, never mind. Nope. Not going to do that. But that's what I have for you all. I'm going to give you 6 minutes back of your time. I am so grateful that you joined me live. Let me go ahead and all right, there we go. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Don't worry about if the course seems like it's too much, too hard, and all of that. If you follow a methodical process, you can absolutely build your course. And we are here. This recording will be available, Curtis, until the series is done, which is like February the 4th, 5th. It will be. It will absolutely be. But all right, everybody, I'm going to let you go. I have a hard time ending these because it feels like there's so much more to say, but there's really not. Like, exit stage left, Zakia. Just exit stage left. How you guys? She's doing good too. I text her and she said she was doing well. All right, seriously. I'm going to let you all go. I'm going to do like a little countdown thingy so it doesn't abruptly end. But I'll see you all on another episode.